Hi there. My name is Shiva Hossainzadeh, and I'm a commercial real estate agent with Coldwell Banker Commercial Blair here in downtown Long Beach, but we service all of Southern California, and we're here to help you. I wanted to share some information today. If you're a first-time business owner and you're looking to go into your first commercial building, whether it's industrial, office, or retail, just wanted to share some things about the process and what to expect, and hopefully this information would be helpful for you. First step and most important thing that I can give you in advice would be to hire a tenant broker. There are a significant amount of benefits that you would get for being represented by a tenant broker, and it's at no cost to you. The commissions are paid for by the landlord, and so having someone that's a commercial agent that's experienced and in this business and does this day in and day out is only going to bring value to you at no cost to you. Again, that commission is paid for by the landlord. And so my team and I are here to help you, and whether it's us or someone else, but find a tenant broker in your market that you trust and has experience and have them represent you. They're only going to bring you value and nothing else. And more importantly, a tenant broker has access to MLS platforms and a slew of real estate properties that you may not be able to find on your own. And so just right there is a huge asset in being able to have a tenant broker find a property for you. So now that a property has been identified and you've got the perfect location that you love and is ideal for your business, the next step in the process is to submit applications to the landlord. So I want to share with you today what you should expect in the application process. The first thing is going to be a lease application, and that's going to be personal information about you, who you are, your name, your address, other landlords, if you've been in other commercial spaces prior to that, what are your assets, what are your liabilities, and if you own any real estate, all of that's going to be identified on the lease application form. Next application is the credit application. Landlords will run your credit. Ideally, they want to see credit scores 700 and above, but don't worry, if you have a lower credit score, we'll talk about that later on in the presentation, but there's ways to get around that and to negotiate so you can still move forward on the space that you like and the landlord still would feel comfortable enough with a lower credit score to move forward. Secondly, you're going to have a tax returns, at least 2 years worth of tax returns. Now, typically landlords want to see personal. In some cases, they would be open to corporate if the corporate taxes are strong enough, but be prepared that the landlord will ask you for your personal tax returns, and again, you're going to have 2 years. And then lastly, landlords want to see cash. They want to see bank accounts, typically 1 to 2 months of bank statements. They want to know how much money do you have in savings particularly. They don't care about the day-to-day transactions that typically happen in a checking account. They want to know, is there enough capital available? Are you going to have money to do tenant improvements or build out of the space if that's needed? And or are you going to have enough money in reserves to cover rent for a period of time if 1 month the business is slower than the next month? So cash is important, and they want to see what you have as cash on hand. So bank statements, in addition to all the other forms that we discussed, is part of the application process. So now that you've gathered all your financials and all your applications have been approved and submitted to the landlord, now it's time to start the negotiations. And I just want to touch on a few things that you should be aware of as it relates to terms of a lease. The first one is a lease term. How many years do you want to sign for that particular commercial space? Usually we see 3 to 5 years. Some cases landlords will do 2. In most cases they typically want 5, and there's other opportunities maybe even to do 10 years or more. It just depends on your needs and your business and what the landlord is looking for, but on average 3 to 5 years is what's common. Second thing is base rent, what the rent is for the space. You're going to see an amount that's being advertised online. That's just the advertising dollar amount. It does not mean that's where the landlord is going to end up on the rent. There is room to negotiate, and that's where your tenant broker and us come into play, and we are going to let you know what we've typically seen in these types of transactions, what we've seen in the market, and we're going to guide you as to what you can come in at as the starting base rent, expecting some increases to happen year after year from the first year. The next item is the rent abatement period, and this is pretty important. A lot of tenants don't know what rent abatement is or what that's in reference to. Rent abatement is in essence free rent. A lot of times landlords don't want to do tenant improvements, so they're just going to offer some free rent period up front in the lease term so that you don't have to be paying rent at the same time that you're going to be doing construction and build out of your space. There is not a set amount of rent abatement, but you can generally get 2 months to 6 months, depending on the lease term, depending on your financials, depending on the rest of the terms of the lease, and of course your financials. So we would guide you as to what you can negotiate on the rent abatement period. And then something very important that tenants miss is relating to an option. A lot of people don't know what an option is, but an option kicks in automatically after the original term of your lease expires with notice from you to the landlord that you want to exercise your option. The option period is really only in the benefit of you, the tenant. It does not benefit the landlord, but it secures you the ability to exercise it at your option, again with written notice to the landlord, to then take your original lease term and roll it over into an additional term, whether that's 3 years or 5 years or whatever it is that you negotiate. But the benefit of the option to you is that you're also going to negotiate what your rental payment is going to be in that option term. And you're doing it now, so in 3 to 5 years from now, when your lease expires and you decide to exercise your option and move forward with the option term, you know what your rental rate is going to be in the future. If you don't have an option and your lease just expires, now you have to renegotiate that with the landlord at the end of the term of your lease, and it may not be in your benefit because the landlord can significantly increase your rent term. So you absolutely want to make sure that you have an option available to you. So now that you've worked with your real estate agent and you found the perfect location, you filled out and been financially approved, you've negotiated all the lease terms and you're ready to sign the lease, there's just 2 things I want to make sure that you're aware of when you go in to sign the lease agreement. The first one being is you're going to have to bring a check with you, and that check is going to cover the first month's rent and your security deposit. The security deposit, again, is subject to your financials. It could be 1 month, it could be more, but whatever that dollar amount is, you're going to have to bring a check for that, and then you're going to be paying the rent for the first month upfront when the lease is signed. The second thing that you should be aware of is insurance, business liability insurance. Tenants have to have an insurance policy in place that protects their business. Typical insurance policies are in the amount of $1 million with $2 million aggregate, and the landlord will be identified as an additional insured on your insurance policy, so you will have to get their entity name and their address, give that to your insurance provider, and they're going to note the landlord as an additional insured on your policy. So I hope that was informative. I hope that you have a little bit more knowledge now in the leasing process. If there's anything else we can do, any questions we can answer, just send your comments below. Please subscribe, and we look forward to helping you in the future. Have a great day.